it's really my joy to come back to India, because India is so full of divine vibrations. As soon as I landed here, I just felt so much joy. And I love America. Of course, I was born there, but India, as Swamiji used to say, I have an Indian heart. And I was telling people there that I'm going back home. I used to say I was going home to America, and I said I'm going back home to India, because the vibrations here, the seekers, the devotees, people love God. And even if they get distracted here and there for a while, it's in the soil, it's in the ether. So I was in my home when I first came back. I heard some chanting outside, and it was a group of swamis just going down the street chanting God's name. And I said, India. You feel God's presence here. I remember one time I was bringing back this big box from America, and I got to the airport in Delhi, and I was at the security, and we were checking all the luggage, and they said, well, what's in that box? I said, oh, it's my guru. And they said, go ahead. No more questions asked. And I remember one time at the airport in Mumbai, Jayaji and I were going through there after giving Kriya initiation, and we were just so uplifted. I mean, honestly, we could have levitated. We were so happy. And as I was going through, they were checking everyone, and the guard, the officer who was checking me, she said, well, who are you, and where are you from, and what are you doing here? So I started telling her about the path and the masters, and we had just finished this wonderful initiation, I told her, and she said, oh, I want to learn. This is what you love here. People want to learn. She said, I want to learn. And I said, okay. I started giving her my card. She says, no, I want to learn now. I said, okay. And my friend Ramani was next to come through the line. She said, she just kept looking at her watch. But I told her, look here at the spiritual eye. I taught her Hong Sa just on the spot. And then I said, here, now this is Ananda Sangha, this is our website, here's my card. And I saw her again at the airport. Can you believe that? A few months later. And she said, ma'am, do you remember me? And I said, no, is something wrong? She said, no, you taught me how to meditate. And she was still meditating. This is what, you just love it about being here in India. But also I'm coming from a place that is like India. It's Ananda village, it's master's community, and everybody there is meditating, praying daily, doing Kriya Yoga, serving. It's a community of saints. There's 250 saints who live there, some 50 years, more than 50 years, some 40 years, more than 40, some 30, serving, meditating, and loving God. And the transformation, as you give your life to God, which is the topic of today, you see the transformation over time of people's faces, of their eyes, of their voices, of their love and devotion for God. And you just know it's completely worth it. And even at we had springtime at Ananda, where there are 14,000 tulips, or 17,000 that they've planted. People come through and they enjoy the gardens at the Crystal Hermitage. And they don't really know what's all going on at Ananda, but they feel something. And they're uplifted, and everyone's face is bright and happy because of the transforming power of being around, being in an environment where people love God and given their life to God. there were some special needs children that came with their teachers, and one little boy, he looked up at his teacher, he must have been 6 or 7, he just said, "You just don't know how happy I am to be here." And I think that's how all of those guests felt. They didn't know what was going on, but they knew something very special was happening. And this is the vibration of people who have given their lives to God. And we have to realize that God is calling, magnetically calling us. We know the story of Swami Kriyanandaji when he had tried everything. He thought he would find happiness in this, or relationships, or money, or this is power, this is people, this is what people feel. Maybe good health, maybe in your family, in that perfect match. But he found that he still was unhappy. And he was in a bookstore and he saw Master's book, Autobiography of a Yogi. And he looked at the face, and that face was attracting him. And then he thought, no, I don't want to spend money. And then he opened the book. He said it was dedicated to an American saint, Luther Burbank. He said, there's no American saints. Actually, there are. There's a lot of American saints. But he put the book down, and then he was, the next day or so, he was walking in that same area, and he said an actual force turned him toward going to that store to buy that book. An actual force turned him, and he bought that book. He went across the country and he met Master, and he gave his life. He said, Master's a vegetarian. I'm going to be a vegetarian. He's a monk. I'm going to be a monk. Right off. Master accepted him right away. He blessed him in his heart and accepted him as a disciple, and Swamiji gave his life to God immediately. And we know the story of Swami Sri Teswarji drawing Master to him in that inconspicuous, narrow lane. But it was time for Master to come to his guru, and Swami Sri Teswarji just called him magnetically. And Master, he said he couldn't turn in a certain direction. His feet were rooted to the ground because God was calling him to give his life to him. And all the wonderful stories you hear and you read in Autobiography of a Yogi. Then there was Dr. Lewis, who, Master's first disciple in America. Doctor came to Master, and his first meeting, Master had long hair, dark skinned, and probably was wearing all orange. The doctor was such a skeptic. And he came in and he said, I have read in the Bible where it says, if thine eye be single, the whole body shall be filled with light. And he said, do you know what that means? And Master says, I think so. Of course he knew. He said, I think so. He said, have you seen this light? And Master said, I think so. And he said, can you show it to me? Master said, I think so. And he sat, he knew exactly who this was. He drew him. And he knew Doctor wanted to give his life to God. So he sat him down, and the most beautiful part of that story is, before he showed him anything, he asked him, will you love me always as I will love you? So beautiful. And Doctor said, I didn't know what to think, but you see, I could feel the love. So I said yes. The Master went, good. Now I can take charge of your life. And Doctor gave his life to God at that moment. Master sat him down in front of him, cross-legged. In Doctor's book, he says, and you can be sure I was not in a full lotus pose, but I tried my best. It says, probably the first time he sat down like that. Master brought his forehead to Doctor's forehead, and he showed him the light, the spiritual eye, immediately. And then he showed him the light of the 1,000-petaled lotus, immediately. because Doctor had given his life to God. So beautiful. I remember when I first came on to the path, and I was just out of college, university, and I just thought I was 21 years old. I thought, this is going to be a complete waste of time. What am I going to do the rest of my life? And I just thought, there's got to be something better. And I remember one night I just began to ask God, if there's a God, I want to know you. And I'm sure all of you have gone through that time when it's so empty. It's just an empty life. You just go to work, go home, eat, sleep, get up, eat, go to work, come home, eat, sleep, get back. It's just anguishing monotony, Master said, until you seek who and what you really are, until you seek your highest potential, until you begin to walk the path. And you say, okay, now I've got a guide, I've got a path, I'm actually going somewhere. And the very next day after that prayer, I met someone. I was guided to buy a book on meditation. I didn't know nothing about meditation and gurus and karma. I was in the middle of Los Angeles. Master, get that book. I bought it. It was Transcendental Meditation. And as I was reading that, I went, I want to meditate. I didn't even know what it was, but I said, I want to do this. And the same day, the same moment I was reading, a man was sitting, I was on a park bench, a man was sitting down on another bench. And what was he doing? Meditating. He was meditating. His eyes were closed, he was sitting. I ran over, I said, hey, what are you doing? I just couldn't believe it. He says, well, I was meditating. I said, I'm just reading about this. I was just so thrilled. Soon after, I went to Master's shrines, and someone told me about this great yogi who lives up in the hills in Sierra Nevada mountains, and his name is Kriyananda. Wow. It's a yoga community. I just said, really? He trains you. They live there. I got in my car. I drove up there. Why did I do that so quickly? Master was pulling me. Dhyana, your life is for God. My whole family was standing in the doorway when I left crying. Where are you going? And my mother was saying, what is this place you're going to? I said, Mom, all I know is the place is called Ananda. What does that mean? I said, all I know is Ananda means joy. And I got up there and I saw this life of joy. What a relief! What a blessing that Master's drawn us, each of us here or wherever, all the centers, or in America at Ananda, or in Europe, or where, that he's drawn us and said, this is your life. I am your guru, like with Lahiri Mahashaya, with Babaji, and Babaji said, don't you remember? And Lahiri says, no. Don't you remember this cave? No. Don't you remember this asan blanket? No. Don't you remember this? Don't you remember? And Master's saying, don't you remember your life is for God? And finally Babaji touched Lahiri Mahashaya and he says, now I remember. And at a certain point you say, now I remember. This is the life. I came to live this life. And it's such a beautiful life. And it's not like we have to go off and live in a cave, you know, and never see anybody and do austerities the whole lifetime. I remember someone said to me, you're so happy because you just stay home and chant Om all day. I said, come on! You had any idea what my life is like. But when we chant, when we pray, when we meditate, we're giving our life to God. Isn't it so? When we have devotion, when we serve, we're giving our life to God. Inch by inch, we're giving our life to God. When we think high thoughts, when we have the right attitudes, when we do affirmations, when we help other people with kindness, we're giving our life to God. And every aspect of what we're doing is giving our life to God. I remember when I first started the path and I was reading where it says in the Bible, "Seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all these things shall be added unto you." And I was new and I thought, I just can't do that. I have too many other things I want to do. How can I put God first? I knew it was wrong, but I just can't do that. And so later, I did the best I could, but later I realized what that was really saying was, meditate first, then go out and do what you have to do. Chant first, then go out and serve or go to your job. Pray to God first, and then go out. And so it's like, do it every day first. Sit and meditate, do your energization, do japa, chant, study, read the scriptures, and then go out into your life. And when I realized that, I said, I can do that. I can do that. To take the time with God. And then you will find that everything else falls into beautifully. It comes out beautifully. And even if, when temptations pull, like Master said, one thing he said was, when he found God, he asked Divine Mother, why did it take so long? I've been praying all these years and calling you. This was Master saying to Divine Mother. And she said, oh, there were a few desires still left. Now they're gone. We have to realize that we have to work it out ourselves. But even if you are pulled by things, Divine Mother, God, Master said, God will never let you down as long as you keep trying. And I'll close with this beautiful story of Saint Teresa of Avila. She was living in a monastery, and there were people would come visit at different times. And there was one young man. He liked to come and visit with her, and he liked it more and more. He kept coming around. And she got attracted. She thought, well, he's kind of nice. And so one day he came, and he was sitting there and talking to her, and she felt, energy going between them and an attraction. And suddenly she saw a vision of Jesus, and he was standing right over that man. And what happened to her? She went into ecstasy. She just couldn't communicate with him anymore. He was wondering, what's going on here? But Divine Mother comes and she helps you. As long as you're trying, there'll always be things trying to pull you left, right, and everywhere. But as long as you're trying, that energy, Divine Mother will help you to be uplifted. I want to read a very beautiful vow. And we're not taking this vow now. Some of you have, but I thought it'd be nice to read it so you understand what it means to give your life to God. This is one of the Nayaswami vows, the pilgrim's vow of intention. And Swami Kriyanandaji wrote this for those who want to say, I want to bring God first and foremost in my life. So as I read this, you might close your eyes, but just try to inwardly feel these words, because they really pertain to this topic today. The Pilgrim's Vow of Intention. I understand and intend from now on to live by my understanding that life is a pilgrimage, of which the final goal is to find and merge back into God. I will endeavor resolutely, therefore, to direct all my thoughts and actions toward that end. I will offer up all material desires for purification in the fire of divine bliss. I will offer up all attachments for purification in that cosmic fire. I will search my heart daily for any lingering desires and attachments, and will offer them to Thee, my cosmic beloved. I will strive to be an example to others of a pure, discriminating, and noble life. I will offer the fruit of all my actions and labors to Thee alone. Bless me and direct my footsteps ever to the summit of Thy holy mountain. Om.